It is 9:01 on a Wednesday morning. And what do you know? You find yourself in the zone on the Fan. I am Dave Sinekin. Soon to be joined, I'm assuming, by the professor of hoopology, a Gopher legend, NBA champion, Double T, Trent Tucker, will make his, I'm guessing, Brett Blakemore, with the construction going on this floor. You know, Double T, as you know,
it's
always...
a maze now.
It is a maze. And then Double T on Saturdays, you know, always steps in at the exact moment my microphone goes on. So I think he probably timed it in a way that he would do that again, but you can't get here from there anymore. It's a very circuitous route from the elevator to our studio. So I'm guessing he's making his way. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to chilling on a midweek vibe on the Fan. Dave Sinekin in again this morning with Blakemore and soon Double T for a few hours of just hanging out and chatting a lot of NFL and NBA stuff. And Mr. Blakemore, beginning with your Minnesota Wild, who stormed back. At this point, should the Blackhawks just take the L and not even play the Wild? I mean, it's getting to a point.
It is delicious.
17-0-1 the last 18 games against the Blackhawks?
I mean, they're in full... They're almost on the way out, but they've been in full tank and rebuild mode for a long time.
Would they be relegated at this point from your second favorite sport if that was a thing in the NHL? Because I feel like at this point it's not even worth their trouble.
I mean, the last handful of years, yeah, they were not very good at all.
Yeah.
But no, I would say it's a cliche game as the professor of puckology walks in. They're down 3-0, but we didn't give up. And we could have just faded away into the night. And all the cliches are true. They could have just packed it and said, we don't got it tonight. And they didn't. They fought back. They grinded their way to a win. They still got outshot like 32-23, but they found a way to win. And Kaprizov just a beauty in the shootout. The only goal in the shootout, from what I read. Yeah. Didn't see it. Forgot they were playing, to be honest with you. It was a Big Ten night for me last night. Fair enough. Then I realized it too late and realized that they won. 5 for 5 on penalty kills. That's always impressive. Yep. That's something you shoot for. And Spurgeon tied it with 2:02 left as we welcome in the professor of both hoopology and puckology. Trent, I'm guessing you were making your way and you saw a big sheet of plastic that stopped you.
I had to finagle my way around.
You had to kind of figure out a way to get here.
Yeah, been around for 30 plus years, the ins and outs, right?
You just, your legs go a certain way because they're used to it. And suddenly you're told.
I see what's going on here,
It's not easy.
They shut down the studio. They moved it to a new place. Nobody told me, but, I found my way anyway.
Nice to see you. Thanks for hanging out today.
Nice to see you as well. Yeah, it was a great win by the Wild last night. Yeah.
Unbelievable. They could have just packed it in.
Down 3-0.
Mm-hmm. Most dangerous lead in hockey.
Deficit, yeah. Kaprizov with the winner. You on the shootout?
All they do is own the Blackhawks.
That's true.
Which is an absolutely beautiful thing. They're back in action tomorrow against Calgary as the homestand, I believe, comes to an end. But that must have been fun because I'm, as you guys know, I'm not a great hockey mind, but I'm at least aware enough to know that when you're down 3-0 in hockey, that's almost a death blow, right? I mean,
it can be if you want it to be.
It's tough if you want it to be.
Yeah, if you just want to pack it in.
It's all about a mindset is what it is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just reading the gamer of, the message was we knew a lot of time was left on the clock. They did everything they could, and I thought it was a good win despite the just horrendous first period. It's more cliches. It's about how you finish, not how you start. All that stuff is still a quality win for the Wild.
Absolutely. Double T, I'm sure you were tuned in, or at least you were catching highlights, or you were watching your boys play. It's always hockey in your household these days.
There was no hockey in my household last night, so I had a chance to watch the Wild make that nice comeback.
Nice. I was, as I said to Brett, I was laser focused on the 2 Big Ten games on Peacock last night. And as I said to Brett yesterday, Nebraska-Michigan was the headliner last night as Freddie's boys at 20-0 were hitting the road to play Michigan. And I had to look twice that Michigan was favored by 10.5 points.
About 10.5?
Yeah. And then,
That's a big spread, huh?
Michigan was, has been very good. They're third in the country, but they had been shaky. They lost at home to Wisconsin. They had some very close games with some of the lesser teams in the Big Ten. And sure enough, Nebraska lost that game by 3 points last night. They led the entire way till there was a minute left. Nebraska had that game despite being down a couple players with the flu. they had the game in their back pocket, and then they didn't score in the final 3:21.
That's a problem.
And lost by 3.
Yeah.
But I think Nebraska proved to a lot of people that, I'm not going to yet say they're the Indiana football team of college basketball, because they're such a have-not program, but they're going to be around. That's a team that's going to be a top 3 seed at worst, and they have to pick it up and play Illinois this weekend, a team they beat at Illinois in December. So I'm anxious to watch the rematch, see how Freddie's boys respond. That's a very good team. The Big Ten has, I would say, 2. Michigan and Nebraska, to me, are a little bit ahead of everybody else.
Okay.
Purdue looked like, preseason number 1.
Yeah, your boys knocked them off.
They dropped their 3rd straight last night, and Indiana beat them. And if you lose to Indiana, things aren't going well because Indiana's not been great.
The basketball team is riding off that emotion and that success of the football team. So all of a sudden now you get the Boilermakers. Everybody's hyped up and ready to go. Nice win by your boys in Indiana once again.
No coincidence that Curt Cignetti was in the house, sitting courtside. They had the trophy there, so I think some of that karma sort of filtered out to the basketball team. So for me, it was a Big Ten night, and the Gophers return to the action tonight in Madison, a game you'll hear right here on the Fan, by the way. It's a 7:30 pregame, 8 o'clock tip. I think we all remember, it wasn't that long ago, about 3 weeks ago, Wisconsin was here, and it looked like Cade Tyson hit the shot of the year from the top of the key. But with 3-4 seconds left, John Blackwell takes all across the court and pulls up and hits the 3 to dagger the Gophers. So Minnesota gets a shot, but I don't know if Tyson's going to play tonight. I heard a bit of the Nico Medved show on the Fan yesterday after my show, and it sounds like that ankle is going to be kind of a day-to-day thing. And if he's not available in Madison tonight, that makes things extremely difficult for the Golden Gophers.
Well, but going into the Colson is very tough for anyone. It's a very good home team. They're very well coached. They understand exactly what they're trying to accomplish on both ends of the floor. And to go into Badgerland and win a road game, that's a tall task for anyone.
It's tricky. I think what's been weird about the Gophers this year is they've been a very good first half team, and then things change big time. They were ahead of Wisconsin. They were ahead of Nebraska. Remember, not that couple a week or so ago?
Up at halftime by 6, right?
Yeah, they were up 6, and then they got scored by about 20 points in the second half. So then that's several games that have gone that way, and that's something that coaching staff's going to have to figure out.
Well, it's one thing as a head coach and along with your staff, you're always trying to figure out how can we finish off games the right way, and which personnel can we put on the floor that's going to give us the best chance to finish off these games the right way.
Yeah. So that's tonight, 8 o'clock. The Wolves return to action tonight as well. We'll talk some NBA today, of course. It's what we do. It's our bread and butter. And we'll talk about the state of the Timberwolves, who snapped their 5-game losing streak against the corpse of the Warriors the other night, and now they go to Dallas tonight and return home to play the Thunder tomorrow night. So back-to-backs are never fun, and back in your day, they were really not fun because, as you've talked about, everybody traveled and coached. There's no private planes back then, so back-to-backs were tricky. I'm real curious to see if Ant's available tonight, and if he is, will he be able to play on the back end of a back-to-back against the Thunder?
Is he out again?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I was talking with Britt Robson yesterday, and he thought he'd be good to go tonight and would probably be okay to play the next night. Chris Finch was surprised in warm-ups. Ant was out before the game against Golden State, shooting around, laughing, and was surprised that the medical staff told him that he was going to be a late scratch. So it's just that toe infection, apparently, on his right foot. Okay. That's been giving him trouble, but he's missed 10 games, and we've not had to experience that from Anthony Edwards in his career here. And so, it's one of those deals. I was thinking with the All-Star game coming up, maybe he just takes a week off. If that will make sure that foot is better, I just as soon know that we have him for the stretch run, because as you know, it's been a rough stretch. Wolves are 7th in the West right now, virtual tie for 6th with Phoenix. But, they got to get their act together. And it starts tonight in Dallas, a team that's very beatable with all the injuries there. And then you get the Thunder, which is in a late start tomorrow at the Target Center at 8:30. So, interesting stretch right now with the trade deadline approaching and everybody wondering what Tim Connolly and Matt Lloyd and that staff might do with this roster?
Well, I'm assuming that they're thinking about and looking at some different ways on how this team can improve and get better. As they move toward the end of the season and get themselves prepared, for a playoff run. And they know they're going to have to maybe do something, if it's not now, maybe a year from now, because the key positions that you and I have talked about over the last year or so is the point guard position for sure. We know that. And what are you going to do, or do you think you have the guy now, that can replace Rudy Gobert in the next year or so? Because he's going to slow down as well. Then you're going to need somebody that can protect the lane and protect, the house. Gobert has been very good since the trade coming up from Utah, doing those things for this team. But we all know that he's not going to be around forever.
No, and obviously early returns on Béranger are very positive. It sounds like the front office is thrilled with his progress. He's absorbing things, learning. We know he's 19 and going to grow into that body and learn the game. Famously, we know he played soccer until 4 years ago, so he's still learning the game. But you see him out there. He looks fluid. He looks natural. He looks like he gets it. And he's already a guy that understands how to play defense. It's now, what can you give this team on the offensive end? And I think a lot of Wolves fans would like to say, just don't watch what Rudy does. Like, be your own guy offensively. Figure it out.
Well, I mean, if you have players that command a double team, and you are a limited offensive player as a center, now you just have to figure out, what spots can I get to on the floor to make my offensive game work. And that's what Rudy Gobert has done throughout his career. He's made a lot of money doing it. He's been a defensive player of the year for a few years, maybe 3 or 4 times, I think so. Yeah. But defensively, he has been very good, for this team. And he has found a way to gel with some of his teammates to find those open spots around the basket for some easy hoops.
One thing we have seen in the limited exposure we've gotten to Béranger is his hands are good. He catches that ball. He's got some offensive skills. He just has to learn how to work around the basket. There were a couple. I remember one instance against Golden State the other night where he had 2 bunnies right under the basket, missed them both.
Yeah.
And you just go, all right, that's going to come, settle down, get comfortable, get confident. But the hands are there. And that's when you're 7, whatever. And certainly with Rudy, the hands have always been kind of an issue. That doesn't appear to be a problem for the young Frenchman.
I remember when I was doing TV for the Wolves, back in the mid '90s and first part of the 2000s, and Dean Garrett was the center.
Yeah,
and he and I used to sit and chat and talk. I said, you have a point guard in Stephon Marbury, and you have another guy in Kevin Garnett. I said, don't worry about trying to make your offense work in a one-on-one type situation. I said, you have a point guard, that can break down the defense time and time again. But also the biggest plus in his game, he's a willing passer. Just get to the open spot. Don't worry about trying to play with your back to the basket. If you can just get to the open spot and play off either KG or Stephon Marbury, you're going to be very successful. The team is going to benefit from that. And at the end of the day, you want to play a long time and make a ton of money.
Yeah, he did. He was a perfect cog on that team, wasn't he? I mean,
yeah.
And that's a guy from Indiana that I followed real closely in his college career. I was real excited to have him here because he didn't feel like a guy who would be an NBA player when you watched him in college necessarily. But as you've told me for 30 years, depends where you go. You got to get lucky sometimes. You come to the right situation. You might have a 7-8 year career where a guy just as talented as you ends up somewhere else and doesn't have the shot.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the bit. We're here till noon, as usual. It's a chill vibe on a Wednesday. We get some time to stretch out in a 3-hour show, so I'm going to open up kind of a Ask the Professor kind of a situation today. You got a question for Double T about the NBA, about his career, about his life, about his world. Ask the Professor. We encourage your questions throughout the day today.
About the Wild.
Oh, yes. Did I not say that?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, sure. About the Wild. Yes, absolutely. Trent's Mount Rushmore NHL players. We could go through that. Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line is 64686. That's the best way to reach us. You can also tweet me at TCHeadCheese. Emails, booth@kfan.com. Ask the professor. Something you've always wanted to ask Double T, something on your mind. We'd love to hear from you as we roll on. Just getting started in the zone on a Wednesday on The Fan.
Before we go, The Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks for the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is money for this hour. Keyword money, KFAN.com. Keyword Bonus Box is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Enter keywords and learn more at KFAN.com.
We're back, 9:20, Wednesday edition of In the Zone on The Fan. Tucker, Sinekin, and Brett Blakemore hanging out with you until noon today. Lots of NBA conversation, plenty of NFL talk, too. Double T, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the championship games. The Super Bowl is set. The Fan has learned Seattle, New England are heading to the big game in Santa Clara a week from Sunday. What struck you by the 2 games on Sunday? What sticks out to you?
Well, between the Patriots and the Broncos, how they were able to manage
the snow.
The weather changed so quickly.
Yeah.
As you start out, things are pretty good. It's a dry field, and all of a sudden, hour and a half later, it's almost a whiteout.
And we talked about it yesterday. I love watching. Who doesn't love watching snowy football games? It's just because that the challenges certainly for both sides, and you hear from the announcers saying, "Well, it helps the offense because they know where they're going." I don't know. It didn't seem like it helped the offense very much either on Sunday, but it's fun to watch. It's just entertaining. Yeah. How do you deal with it?
Old school football, right?
It is, and obviously we're going to see less and less of that as teams convert to domes. So you're right. That was the big talker there, and I think in the nightcap, Sam Darnold, throwing for 350 yards in a big spot, kind of shutting up a lot of people that wondered if he could do it. That had to just be so gratifying for him.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, because, where his career started at, no one gave him a chance not only to get to this point, but to survive in the NFL long enough to get to a situation where, he could be in a big moment like this. He comes to the Vikings a year ago on a 1-year deal for $10 million. They weren't looking for him to be a starter. J.J. McCarthy goes down with the injury, and Sam Darnold leads this team to a 14-3 record. And many people now are probably asking, did the Vikings make the wrong decision by not bringing Sam Darnold back? But we all knew going forward that Sam Darnold was not the future of this team. It was going to be J.J. McCarthy. Yeah,
they put their flag in the sand and said, this is what we're going to do. And obviously right now it's easy to say, well, that was a massive mistake. But again, let's revisit in 3 years. Who knows? Maybe we're talking about McCarthy as we talking about Darnold, 3 years later.
Well, because if McCarthy doesn't get hurt, Sam Darnold doesn't get the chance.
Right.
And so, going into that season a year ago, Sam Darnold was brought here just to be a backup, maybe a mentor to J.J. McCarthy, but once J.J. went down with the injury, Sam got his chance. He stepped in and played some big-time football, early exit at playoff time, but the confidence that he gained a year ago by being here with the Minnesota Vikings now has put him in a situation, to win a championship.
Yeah, and he was spectacular on Sunday, and his team is now favored to bring home the Lombardi Trophy, 4.5-point favorites to take down New England a week from Sunday. The big news out of the NFL yesterday was the report that when the new class of the Pro Football Hall of Fame is announced next weekend, that Bill Belichick's name will not be included. He was a first-time eligible member to be voted in, and he's reportedly not going to make it. And I immediately thought of you because of all the years we've been working together, and we talk about each class that gets elected, and sometimes I get really ticked off that either somebody doesn't get in their first year of eligibility or they do. And you've always said, who cares? Like, they're going to get in. So why is it a big deal? I'm going to ask you, though, in this situation, when you're talking about Bill Belichick, who's won, obviously, 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots. He won a couple more with the Giants as a defensive coach, widely considered the greatest NFL coach of all time. It's preposterous to me that he's not in. He's not getting in his first year. The scuttlebutt is he's paying a price for Spygate and Deflategate and That was Spygate was 07, I think. Won 3 Super Bowls after Spygate. It's not like once they found him out, it was all over. If that's the case, I think that's pretty petty in the grand scheme of things. He paid a price. They lost a first-round pick, and he was stocked, I think, $500,000, whatever. I think it's preposterous that he's not a first-ballot Hall of Famer. I think it's embarrassing, but I'm really curious what you think.
Well, the first ballot now, I think it's embarrassing that he was not selected for the Hall of Fame. I mean, his credentials speaks for themselves. And, on some of these committees, you have some very petty people. And that's what this seemed like to me. Somebody is not happy or don't like Bill Belichick, but we all know that Bill Belichick is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think it was Bill Polian, the former Colts GM. It's been reported that he had told some folks on the call that he feels like he should wait a year, pay a little penance, and wait a year.
That's small-mindedness.
It is. I mean,
very small-mindedness.
There's 50 voters, and they're retired players, and I think some media members. But that you need 80%. 80% gets you in.
That means 11 people had to vote against it.
Exactly. Wow. Did you just do that math in your head? That's impressive. I had to write that down. You're right. At least 11 of the 50 had to agree with whoever threw it out there. Like, let's make the dude pay his price. We never really liked him. He's bristly. He's just not a pleasant guy. Whatever it is, let's just make him wait. It's a black eye on that committee. I mean, I'd almost say, you guys, let's put a new group in there to vote because that's just absurd.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're an NFL person, it's almost laughable for someone. What idea could they come up with to say that Bill Belichick does not deserve, whether it's first ballot, okay, let's say it's a first ballot opportunity, then Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
And you look at some of the coaches that are in the Hall of Fame, to take nothing away from them, but like the Don Coryells and Tom Flores of the world that are in there with resumes that, don't even come close. I mean, nobody's resume approaches Belichick's, but there's like 4 or 5 guys. Mike Holmgren's a finalist this year. What if one of those coaches gets in?
They very well could.
I almost feel like if you're going to ban Belichick for a year, you can't embarrass him further by putting another coach that didn't accomplish anything close to what he did in ahead of him. It'll be curious to see the class. I think Larry Fitzgerald's up this year to get in. So I think it's rather safe to say that Larry will be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He should.
I'd like to think he'd be unanimous.
He should.
In that respect.
Yeah.
But if Belichick does, he doesn't have any skeletons either. Like, it's not like they're going to say, well, Larry, I mean, come on, look what he did off the field. There's nothing there.
Yeah. No Spygate there?
No Spygate with Larry. Okay. No issues at all. He was a consummate pro from the day he stepped on the field. And I know a lot of folks around here will be really excited when they see his name as a member of the 2026 class. I mentioned as we went to our first break that I wanted to spread throughout the day a little Ask the Professor questions from our listeners that they've always wanted to ask you something or something's on their mind. They're flying in. And the very first one we got from Mikhail was asking you, what was Michael's favorite card game? We're going deep today. We're going deep.
I would say poker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was it easy to get a poker game together on the airplane for those? Or where would he, or was it in the locker? Where would he typally play?
Or blackjack. He didn't care.
Was he the house? If he's playing blackjack?
Oh, yeah, he all the money. Yeah,
of
for
course.
sure he's the house.
Michael's the house.
I mean, who's going to be a Michael Jordan for the house?
Put the visor on, little cigar in his mouth. Let's go. Who wants to play?
And the beauty of this was that, we'd be flying back from maybe the West Coast in the middle of the night, getting back to Chicago, and all of a sudden there's you have a blackjack game on the plane for small money, and he didn't care what you bet. You could bet $1 or you could bet $100. It was just the competitive nature of his mindset that he just wanted to be in the game.
Yeah.
And it was always fun is because there was some nights that, we would beat the house, and if we beat the house on the airplane, the next day in practice, we had to stay after practice to finish up the game also again.
No, wait. Really? Michael doesn't take losing easily.
No, he didn't take losing kindly.
No. I don't see you sitting in on a poker game, though. Did you ever participate?
No, not poker. I would play a little blackjack every once in a while.
Really?
I'm only betting $1.
I was going to say, you are not a gambler by any sense of the word.
But, I was a pretty good blackjack player.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, a buck at a time is going to take you a while to.
It didn't matter. It was just for the fun.
Yeah.
Team camaraderie. And you flying back from L.A. to Chicago in the middle of the night. Most guys are not going to sleep because you're still wound up, from the game that you just played. And it was something to do to pass the time on a long plane trip back home.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. If you're going to ask me what's Michael's favorite game, it's going to be a gambling game of some kind.
Yeah,
and I love poker. I got my Wednesday night game tonight that I'm always excited to play. So that's.
I remember one night we had a very good night against the house, and and so when you beat the house,
the house is Michael, correct?
The house is Michael. Yeah, so and so everybody's kind of talking and having a good time and giving him a lot of stuff. And he said, all of a sudden we come into practice. He says nobody's leaving after practice.
Tables set up in the corner.
Tables set up in the locker room with plenty of food coming in.
That's hilarious. That just speaks to he just refuses to lose. He has to get the last word. Has to make sure that while all the dust clears, Michael's ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Chauncey Billups is nowhere near these.
That's a very, very good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, that might have been how Chauncey got started. Maybe he was
Think
around.
about it.
Wait a minute, I love this. I get to gamble. This is great. Another one for you, Double T. Who was the hardest player to guard during your career? And who was a relatively star player that you felt like was the easiest to guard, or maybe someone whose game you felt you could solve? Anything come to mind on either side of that?
Well, the hardest person for sure is the guy we just got through talking about, number 23.
Yeah. When you were on the Knicks and he's on the Bulls.
Yeah.
And
I remember his rookie season, and we played him in an exhibition game. And I knew how good he was, but I didn't know how great he was. And he caught a ball in the wing, and Truck Robinson is a pretty strong guy. And he went to the basket and he kind of got hit by Truck, and Truck gave him a pretty good blow, and he still found a way to finish. And I was like, whoa, this is different. And I think in his third year in the league, he had come off the foot injury or something where he was not able to play a lot in his second year. And it was our home opener, and he came into the Garden. We had come from Detroit the night before. And at that time, the game was a little bit more physical, where you could hit guys and knock them around. And
that's for sure.
Charles Oakley and Patrick Ewing, they were pounding him time and time again. And he still scored 50 points in a close game. So after the game was over, the media comes in and you have questions about, what do you think of Michael Jordan as a player? And you get some guys might say, well, he gets a lot of calls. He's a great player, but, he's not all that. So a guy asked me the same question. I said, you want my honest answer? He said, yes. I said, tonight, I just saw the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. The guy says, really? I said, there's a lot of great guys I played against, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, just to name a few. I said, but I have never seen that. That's different. And to me, he is the greatest basketball player that I've ever witnessed.
Not going to get a whole lot of fight back on that one, except for the LeBron crowd. Mm-hmm. Back to the question, though, does anybody on the other side jump out at you as like easy? Like you saw you're up against this guy and you're going, this is a guy I can always get my shot against. This guy cannot stop me. I can't believe I get to play against this guy again. Anybody jump out at you?
Well, it all depends on the system that you're running. And and there's some guys who are really good offensively and they don't pay a lot of attention on the defensive end. And they're not used to fighting through different screens or that can be set on them. And more times than not, when you play against a great offensive player, you want to force him to play defense as much as you can. And hopefully that you have those big guys who can set screens that can continue to pound him and wear him down so that he doesn't have the energy and the strength to finish off the game the right way offensively. And there are a number of guys like that. I just don't have anyone off the top of my head I can say who's the guy that I like to go against the most. But you always try to make that top offensive player play defense as well.
Yeah, make it as hard as possible.
Make it as hard as possible.
Both ends of the court. Yeah. Keep the questions rolling in for the professor. We'll weave those in throughout the show. When we come back, I'd like to chat briefly about the Gophers college football schedule was released, what that looks like. And my favorite team has a very daunting back-to-back spot in their schedule. I want to dive into that for a moment as well. You're in the zone on a Wednesday, 9 to noon. It's Tucker, it's Sinekin, it's Blakemore, and we're back after these.
Wolves fans, you can join us for a Michelob Ultra watch party January 28th. That's today. The Rosemont Legion. You can hang out with Max Fuller. 7:30 to 9:30. Play trivia, win prizes, enjoy drink specials. Full details now, KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
We're back. 9:40. It's 9 to noon on the Fan. In the Zone edition today. Double T and Sinekin hanging out until noon today. The Big Ten football schedules were released yesterday, Trent, and your Gopher schedule. Now we know. Well, I think we already knew who they were playing, but now we know when they're playing.
Okay.
And your Golden Gophers they actually have a difficult non-conference game in the mix this year. They got Mississippi State. You bring an SEC team coming to town, but they do have all three of their non-conference games are at home at Huntington Bank Stadium. They'll open the Big Ten season at Washington. That's never easy.
That's true.
Going out and playing the Huskies. And you get to come back and play Michigan. A Little Brown Jug right off the bat in, I guess, maybe the first weekend in October. Then at Purdue and then a bye. Then it starts to get a little meaty. Iowa is at home for Floyd. Then at Indiana, get to play the Hoosiers. UCLA at home, at Penn State, Northwestern at home, and at Wisconsin. So your road games are at Washington, Purdue, Indiana, Penn State, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little tricky. It's a little meaty.
But not too scary.
Yeah, there's no Ohio State. There's no Oregon this year for the Gophers. And you close at, the Axe this year's at Wisconsin. And
I said not too scary.
Yeah, no, I think you look at it and you go, okay. I mean, again, there's so much we don't know about this team and this roster right now, but we know the quarterback's back and there's some stability there. But there's not a grind where you go, oh man, this 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, it's
is
not like Indiana.
brutal.
You got to play Michigan, Ohio State back to back.
You saw that, huh?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so Indiana, they have 3 bunnies to start, and then they got Northwestern at home and at Rutgers. So, I mean, just start the season in October when they're 5-0. Then they go to Nebraska, and as you said, they welcome Ohio State to Bloomington, and the very next week have to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
That's tricky. And then and then the Gophers.
Well, and we don't know what Michigan's going to look like now with all the stuff that took place this past year at the end of the season.
New coaching staff. Yeah. I mean, we know they'll be chock full of 5-star recruits. That's what they do.
And how many guys will leave Michigan based on this fallout situation?
Yeah, I don't know how many they lost. It's a good question, but I know the Utah guy that take over the job, he brought a bunch of guys with him that moved over. Gophers get Indiana after that 2-game grinder of Ohio State, Michigan. So I don't know. It might be a good time to play Indiana. Maybe they take them a little lightly. They go, well, that was a tough grind. Now we got the Gophers. It just might be a look ahead kind of thing for the Gophers' opportunity because Indiana has a bye after the Gopher game. So they might just be going, we get the Gophers in a bye before USC comes to town. So let's take our foot off the gas. Just, maybe PJ's squad has a chip in a chair in Bloomington.
Yeah.
My daughter let me know via text. She's overseas this semester, but she let me know that her dad's weekend next fall is the last weekend in September for her sorority. And so I looked. That's the Northwestern game.
Okay.
Now
you're making the trip down, right?
I'll make the trip down.
Okay.
I doubt I'll go to the game. It's a whole different world down there trying to go an Indiana football game as it ever has been. But I immediately this morning.
You checked for tickets?
No, I checked for hotel rooms.
Oh. Thought you was trying to get her tickets out on sale yet?
They're probably on sale. I don't feel a need to go to the game.
Why not?
It's more about just being with my daughter, hanging out, partying, that kind of thing.
Is she graduating next year?
Yeah, she'll be a senior next year.
Yeah, it's going to be your last trip to IU.
It is until graduation. What just boggles my mind, and I know it's not just Indiana. I'm sure it's pretty much everywhere these days. But I jumped on Hotels.com this morning to go, okay, I better at least, get a hotel for that weekend. And obviously it's a home game weekend. Was told basically the entire Greek system at Indiana, it's parents' weekend that weekend. So here you go. It's unbelievable. You want to stay at like a Super 8? $800 a night. And that's like the cheapest, right? It's a Super 8. You want a Holiday Inn? $1,300 a night.
Really?
It's unbelievable what they get away with And it's not just this year. I had the same experience last year, even though, Indiana had a good season. I tell you this, though. My kids have now been going to school there for, 6-7 years. First few years, when I would go down in September for parents' weekend, dad's weekend, could get a room for a couple $100 a night. That's what you get, right? When it's suddenly now
success,
the hottest team in town.
Yeah.
So I'll be taking a second job between now and then to just make sure I can handle the weekend in Bloomington in late September.
Yeah, success, allows people to make some different decisions on how to run their business. I would just say.
Yes, I did find a comfort inn that was at least
500.
I think it was about 400 a night. So, but still,
alive for Bloomington.
You're in a comfort inn. You're in a little
Four Seasons or
the Graduate, which is kind of the nicer place there, like in most college
I can't
campuses.
imagine if they had Four Seasons there.
Yeah, they don't have a Four Seasons. The best place to stay in Bloomington.
What it would cost?
No.
$3,000 a night.
No. The best place to stay in Bloomington always, and I always stay there if I can, is at the Union. The Student Union has a hotel in it, the Biddle Hotel. It's awesome, and it's inexpensive typically. I checked. Of course, it's sold out. Yeah, I'm sure.
Sure.
I should have thought about it. I knew the schedules were coming out tomorrow. It's usually that last weekend in September. I should have been kind of like when the Packers schedule comes out. You want to jump on the hotels right away. That's kind of what it is for Bloomington now. All right. As the Ask the Professor questions are rolling in, we have several related to your sudden newfound interest in hockey.
Oh, okay.
One, this is Scott in Minneapolis. How were your boys introduced to hockey, and did they take to it immediately? That's SDJ Scott in St. Anthony. I don't know that I remember asking you this. I'm sure I did back in the day, but your boys are now teenagers, and of almost one's in high school, one's not quite, but they love the game. They're talented. How did it all happen back in the day?
Well, family members who were hockey players and hockey participants. So I have a nephew that also played, association hockey, and then he played junior hockey, and he played high school. His high school hockey was at Maple Grove, and then he went on to play juniors for maybe a year or so, and then he finished out his hockey career at Gustavus. And so when my kids could sit up, I tried to put a basketball in their hands.
I would think so,
but they had hockey sticks in their hands. And so by the time they were 3 or 4 or 5 or so, I found myself driving down to Gustavus every other weekend to watch hockey. And then we put skates on them at about the age of 3, and they just fell in love with the game from there. So I would say it was that, having family members who participated in the game of hockey, led my kids to that sport. And I'm very happy that they found something that they like to do, because a lot of parents sometimes may want to steer their kids where they want to go. But I think when you try to dictate the outcome of what you want your kids to do, it can lead to, they may not like it as much.
Yeah. They feel pressure. They feel
and they can
obligated.
Find burnout is because I'm doing this for somebody else more so than myself. And I'm just thrilled now that I got a chance, to learn about a new game as well. And, hockey is a beautiful sport. It's fun to watch.
And you've talked over the years before you had kids when we were doing the show, how when you were in New York, you loved the Rangers and Mark Messier, and you appreciated the game of hockey, and you watched games, but you never really followed the game closely and understood the game really until your kids were playing, correct?
I think my real first introduction to taking a look at hockey was when I was in college.
Oh.
And, the Gopher team was very good back then. Aaron Bryden, Neil Bryden, they were around at the time. But I became very good friends with Herb Brooks. And at that time, you had the pavilion that had the hockey rink, and you had Williams Arena. So we pretty much kind of shared the hallway to the same training room. And there were a lot of days, I got a chance to sit down and talk to Herb Brooks. And so he and I became pretty good friends. And ironically, when I got drafted to the New York Knicks, Herb Brooks went to coach the New York Rangers. So we were kind of on the same path. So I would go and watch the Rangers play, and at that time, the Knicks people were asking me, why do you want to go to a Rangers game? Why all of a sudden you're interested in hockey? I say, because, the head coach and I have a relationship.
Yeah.
And so I had a chance to watch Herbie when he was with the New York Rangers. So that was kind of my real first introduction into taking a deep dive into what hockey was all about.
So the timing when you were here at the U coincided with when he took over the Olympic team.
There you go.
So take me back. Like, do you remember going back to 1980, knowing he got the gig and he's coaching the team, and any conversations you had as he was getting ready to take on that job? And then, of course, what happened afterwards changed everything. What are your recollections around that time?
Well, I didn't have a chance to talk to him about the 80 Olympics, but, just being around him and kind of picking his brain about how he constructed things and how he put things together and how he would challenge, players in certain ways. And, he would play mind games in not in a negative way, but to get a reaction out of you. And to me, I've always felt like that great coaches will find a way to bring a collection of people together and get them on the same page. And I thought that Herb Brooks did that as well as anybody.
Yeah, hard to argue. Just what a time to kind of get to know him and be around him.
He and I would sit and chat and talk, and and playing for Jim Dutcher was great as well. But I was in the era with Bobby Knight and some of those great college basketball coaches. But to have a guy outside of your sport kind of speak the same language was a benefit to me as well.
While we're on the subject, 763 texter asks why you chose Minnesota instead of trying to play for Johnny Orr in Michigan.
Well, so
because you were obviously a Flint guy.
Johnny Orr recruited me very heavily, and he said, "I would love to have you." He says, "But we have the Big Ten Freshman of the Year coming back in Mike McGee." He says, "And if you want to come to Michigan and fight Mike McGee for playing time," he said, "we'll sign you tomorrow." But I just felt like when I took my recruiting trip in October of 1977 that this was the place for me. But also on that day, Minnesota knocked off the number one team in the country, the Michigan Wolverines. So that made my decision a little bit easier.
Somebody's telling you something, though, right?
Yeah. But also Jesse Evans at that time was an assistant coach with the team. And I had known him since I was a junior high student back in Flint, Michigan, because he was a JV coach at my high school before he came to join Jim Dutcher's staff. But I just had a good feeling, a good vibe on my recruiting trip weekend. And also I wanted to be a part of the Big Ten Conference. But Minneapolis offered a different type of atmosphere compared to some of the other Big Ten cities. It was a metropolitan area. I wanted to be a part of a bigger city. And I knew they had a great fan base, and Gopher basketball was something that was special, to this community. And I wanted to be a part of that.
We're all thankful you made the decision. Where else were you? Were you close anywhere else? Was it kind of a slam dunk? Oh, they just crushed Michigan. God's speaking to me. This is where I'm coming.
It came down to three schools: Iowa, UCLA, and Minnesota.
Well, okay, so UCLA in 1977, they were in the middle of a rather epic decade of success, unlike what we've ever seen. So you had to be attracted to the powder blue, John Wooden, Lou Alcindor, Bill Walton.
Marcus Johnson.
Yeah, what did you go out there? Did you ever make the trip out there?
When I was 15, I went to UCLA's basketball camp. And as a kid, the only real college that I knew about was Michigan and UCLA. And I was going to UCLA as a kid. That's where everybody wanted to go. And I went out on my visit for the basketball camp. Gene Bartow was the head coach.
Oh, right.
At that time. And I struck up a really good relationship with him during that phase. And by the time I became a senior, he left UCLA.
UAB, right?
And went to go to UAB.
Yeah.
And a guy named Gary Cunningham took over at the time. And he said, well, we still would love to have you come to UCLA, but I have, two, veteran guards ahead of you right now. And whether you come in and beat them out or not, they're still going to start. And that kind of was like, well, that doesn't seem fair to me. If I have a chance to
if I outplay them, let me show you what I can do.
But then it was neck and neck. Silas McKinney, who also became an assistant coach for the Minnesota Vikings, was an assistant coach, under Lou Holson, Lou Holson at Iowa at the time. And he was very close to almost getting me to go to Iowa. But at the end of the day, I knew that Jesse Evans and the University of Minnesota was going to win out. But I think I was closer to going to Iowa than I was going to UCLA.
And you're in the Midwest. You're close to your family. They can make the drive if they want. It all worked out. The fan has learned. It all worked out as your pretty face is hanging in the rafters of Williams Arena.
Playing, in this environment and being a part of this community for as long as I've been and playing in Williams Arena, to me, it's been second to none. And when I went on and got drafted and went to New York, and many of the guys I played with and played against, they would always ask me, why do you always go back to Minneapolis in the summertime? And when I started to do my golf events, and some of the guys came in to participate to help us raise funds for some of the kids in the city, and they said, now we understand why. Now we understand why. And so this has always felt like home to me. This has been a special place for me to be a part of. I've made some great friends, have great relationships with a lot of people, and I'm happy that I was able to be a part of this community for so long, and that means so many people during that time allowed me to be a part of them as well.
And you were smart enough not to invite all your friends to come in February.
That's true.
You made sure it was usually August or September when it was just lovely here.
Yeah.
We'll pause here, top of the hour break. Some news, a new head coach in Cleveland. We'll talk about that. And keep your questions coming for the professor. Ask the professor. Bradshaw and Brian, KFAN, text line 64686, or tweet me at TC Head Cheese. Lots more NBA conversation as well. Trade deadline approaching. What should the Wolves do, if anything? We'll dive into that too. You're in the zone on a Wednesday on the Fan.